Gov Kristi Noem, her new book out tomorrow, No Going Back, the truth on what's wrong with politics and how we move America forward. One click on various websites. Governor, welcome back to the show. A quick comment on what Mr. Trump is saying. It's a disgrace. It's election interference, all this business about throwing him into jail for an unconstitutional gag order. Your quick thought? I
agree with him wholeheartedly. I think that he's angry, and I think he's recognizing and reflecting the anger of Americans. I think Americans across this country are upset by this corrupt judge who is now tying President Trump up and keeping him off the campaign trail. You heard the president just talk about the fact that they've extended the length of this court case now against him. Meanwhile, they're not even filling out full days. So he sits here in New York City. He can't be out talking to American citizens about the economy, about how high gas prices have gone up under Joe Biden, how much their groceries are costing them, what the economy is doing. And we've got violent protests breaking out on college campuses that are supporting terrorist organizations. So the president's right. The country is a mess. And this judge is trying to keep him in a courtroom to keep him from saving America. Yes, indeed. In terms of the book, let's clear the air. Some of the lefty media is going after you. You put your dog Cricket down for a variety of reasons. What do you say? Well, you know, this is a book that's filled with stories of painful decisions, hard decisions, and my last life experience and what I think has changed about politics and how President Trump broke politics. What I'd say about this situation was it was about 20 years ago I had to make a choice. As a mom and as a grandma, I had to make a decision between protecting my children and a dog that was killing livestock and attacking people. And I made the hard decision. I took the responsibility on myself. And I know I'm receiving criticism for that, but I want people to remember and to know this, and this is the reason it's in the book. My political opponents have tried to use it against me in the past. I wanted people to know the truth. And I want them to know that I'm not like other politicians. I don't try to hide the truth, and I don't try to run from hard decisions. I take them head on, and that's what President Trump does, and I think that's why the liberals are giving me the same treatment that they give him, much like it. You know, my saintly wife, as I always call her, who grew up part of the time on a ranch, actually in France as well as Montana, where we were married, said, unfortunately, if you have a dog that's not trained and is going out and killing chickens, a working dog is a very bad thing. Now, I would dare say most people in the Beltway media have never been on a ranch and don't understand the working dog hypothesis. But why did you decide to put it in the book? You wanted to make it as a tough choice? Was that the point you're making? No, and listen, we need to be clear. This was an adult working dog that I was at Second Chance. I was a dog trainer and raising dogs at the time. They brought it to me because it was too aggressive. It'd been through months and months of training, and it was still killing livestock and attacking people. So I put it in the book because my political opponents in previous campaigns have tried to use it, and they've tried to twist it into something ugly, much like they are today. And I wanted people to know the truth. I want them to know that, yeah, I've had to make some tough choices in the past, but I want them to know the truth, and I want them to know that I don't pass my responsibilities on to anybody else. I make hard decisions, and I'm not going to ask somebody else to do my job for me. Well, we are dog people at home, have been forever and ever and ever, but that's a different matter. And the Kim Jong-un business, did you meet him? Did you not meet him? Did you cross the DMZ? There's some confusion about that. The Margaret Brennan interview yesterday, a word on that? Well, I've been in the DMZ. I've traveled all around the world. I've traveled all around the world and met with world leaders. As soon as this was brought to my attention, I wanted this removed from the book, right. And I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about meetings that I've had with world leaders. I'm just choosing not to. And so when it came to my attention, I asked for that to be taken out, that name. You were down in the Mar-a-Lago RNC meeting this weekend. Did you talk to President Trump? I did. He looks like he's doing great. He's fighting. It's always good to see people around him encouraging him because he truly is fighting for America. And it was great to see so much support. There were so many people there that were supporting him in his candidacy, recognizing that this campaign is literally about people who love America and the people who are destroying America right now. That's really what this campaign is about. And it's so nice to see so many people recognizing how important this election is. Did you talk to him about the Veep stakes? No, we talked about a lot of people, but we didn't talk specifically about that. He was talking to me about how I was doing, how the family was doing, and then we talked about, you know, what was going on in his life. And this election year is an interesting year. What did he wanted to know what I was hearing from a lot of the swing states and the tough races that we have going on, and what I was doing to help those candidates. Who do you think would make the best vice president for the swing states? I told him he needs to pick who will help him win. because I just need him to win.
But you're still in that race.
Every day that President Trump was in the White House, I was able to be on offense for the people of my state. So he needs someone that will help him win, that can message, that is tough, and will make tough decisions alongside of him. Because when he gets in that White House, he's going to have a lot to fix.
And Governor Kristi Noem is still in that race?
I don't know. You have to ask him. He's the only one who's going to decide. That's what I love about it.
I agree with that.
Yep, he's the only one who
I don't
decide.
think he's made up his mind.
No,
yet
I don't
either.
think so.
No, I think 100%. But the other thing is so interesting. It comes out in your book, and it's a recurring theme on the campaign trail. This is not your father's Republican Party. Mr. Trump calls the Republican Party a working man's party, a working folks party, a middle income party. He's putting a coalition together. Whites, blacks, Hispanics, women, young people, etc. Do you see that in the Midwest and South Dakota? Do you agree with him? Is that the right strategy for his campaign?
Absolutely. That's what I love about President Trump is he doesn't think he's better than anybody else. He doesn't think he is. Most politicians, you know, they act like they're a normal human being and out there putting on hard hats and jeans and acting like they're just like everyday Americans, but they don't really think it. President Trump does. He really is fighting for the working person in this country that's trying to balance their budget, take care of their family, and know that they're passing on a country to their kids and grandkids they can be proud of. So, yeah, I hear it everywhere I go. I've been traveling this country in Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, all over the place. I'm going to Arizona next week. I've been all over the place talking to people and helping candidates, and everybody there just says, when are we going to get President Trump back? We need him back. We can't do this anymore.
Did you remind him that South Dakota is a zero income tax state?
Oh, he knows.
Did you remind him?
He knows.
I just want him to keep that in the forefront.
South Dakota is winning the economic race. We are thriving because our people are free. Our people are free of taxes and overregulation, and they get to make their own decisions for themselves, have flexibility. We've broken all kinds of records in the amount of wages that have gone up and businesses that have moved in. We're thriving, and it's because we just did what conservative economic principles can deliver, and it's just proving out to be exactly what every single state should be doing.
Governor Kristi Noem, thank you very much. Good